VMware Data Services Manager 9.1 brings Microsoft SQL Server to general availability on VCF, fully supported and ready for production workloads. In this demo by Eric Gray from VCF Technical Marketing, you'll see the point-in-time recovery workflow end-to-end. The environment already has a production 3-node always-on availability group cluster with databases running on it. The goal is to restore one of those databases to a specific point in time for debugging without modifying or disturbing the live cluster.
This is the DSM management interface. As you can see, I'm logged in as the DSM administrator. This environment has already been set up with Active Directory integration. We have set up our S3 compatible storage buckets for database and system backups. And we even have a few databases already running in the environment. The focus of this demo is going to be on SQL Server. You can see there's already one SQL Server running in there. Take a look at it over here. Now, one thing that makes SQL Server different from the open source databases in DSM is that we have made a very deliberate distinction between the underlying instance and the user database. Here you can see, for example, we have the underlying 3-node, that's an always-on availability group cluster. It is integrated with Active Directory. It's running SQL Server 2022, cumulative update, and it is in use. Now, running on that instance, we have two user databases. They're named after trees, spruce and pine. Now, in this operation, what I'm going to show you is how to do a point-in-time recovery of this pine database onto a new underlying instance for debugging. So to do this, first we're going to go create a new SQL Server instance. This way we don't have to mess with our existing 3-node HA cluster. We're going to set up this new instance. First thing we'll do is give it a name. I'm going to name it after a state. And then you can choose your edition. Developer edition is going to be fine for our purposes here. But, we offer many other choices in DSM if you need enterprise features or not. So developer, there will be an administrative username and password you can specify, or you can just leave it blank and DSM will automatically generate one for you. I like that option, makes it easier. You can look it up later if you need it. Now here is where we really get into the interesting benefits of using DSM with Microsoft SQL Server, and that is Active Directory. As a preparatory step, we've already set up Active Directory integration in DSM. We specify our domain name and some credentials there. So now when we set up a new instance, we can choose to have it join the domain. And to do that, we're going to specify this AD user account that we've already created on the AD side that has the necessary permissions. And we're going to enable write DNS names. This is the IP address of our AD server that is acting as a DNS server. And we can enter a fully qualified domain name. And DSM will go in and create a forward and reverse record for this FQDN. That way we can access it through the name instead of IP address. Very convenient. All right, so to get going, we need to accept the Microsoft EULA and move forward to selecting the deployment topology. That existing instance that we looked at was using this 3-node always-on availability group. That's a cluster for high availability and failover. This project that we're working on to just restore for some debugging, we don't need that HA, so we're just going to go ahead and create a single VM instance of SQL Server and use that. Now in DSM, we have this notion of infrastructure policies. These policies are the resources that are used to run the actual databases. We have two different options. You can use a vSphere namespace, or you can create a policy in the vSphere client, and that's called a DSM managed policy. This is a collection of resources like a cluster, an IP pool, a set of VM classes that a vSphere administrator creates, and that can be the destination for the database. This vSphere namespace was actually created in VCF Automation, and that's for a different project, so we're not going to use that one today. We're going to use this DSM policy. As you can see, the storage policy that corresponds to that has already popped up, and we're going to just choose a VM class. You don't choose arbitrary CPU and memory. you must just select from the classes that have been set up by administrators. In this case, a 4 vCPU, 8 gigs of RAM is going to be plenty. If this were a production database and SQL Server DBAs were going to be using it, I'm sure they would want to have the SQL Server agent enabled so they could schedule maintenance jobs. Maybe they have some specific SQL Server configuration tweaks they like to apply. Those can all be done here. For our purposes with this debugging project, we're just going to leave the defaults. Those are going to be fine. One last chance to review all of the settings before you commit, and we'll go ahead and create that. This takes a few minutes. Behind the scenes, we're spinning up a new virtual machine on that vSphere infrastructure, deploying the Microsoft SQL Server bits inside there, bringing it online. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is get access to this new database instance. In DSM, access is all controlled through this concept of data service policies. So as you can see in this environment, we already have a data service policy for SQL Server. And so instead of creating a new policy, all we have to do is edit the existing one. This policy controls who can run what and where. We have currently configured this to apply to all namespaces. That's easy in this test environment. And as you can see, you can also control which database servers a user can access. Right now, we have Nevada. This is that 3-node HA cluster. We just introduced Arizona to our environment, and we need to check it so that we can add that, so we can deploy new user databases onto that infrastructure. Now, this new single node SQL Server is just going to be used temporarily and then probably thrown away. So we're not going to require backups. So we're going to change the policy from require backups, which is needed when you're using the HA cluster option, to allow backups. That way the HA databases can still have their backups. The single instance one, if we don't want it, we don't have to use it. Okay. And then authentication types, we're going to currently just continue allowing both types. The Windows Active Directory or the SQL Server username and password combo. Okay, that's considered less secure, but oftentimes more convenient. So we'll allow both for now. And then one quick review of all those settings. We'll do a quick save, and now it's ready for use. So we jump back over to SQL Server, and now we can jump up to the tab for databases. You can see we have those two SQL Server user databases running. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and we're going to restore from that existing database to a certain point in time. Now, this is a great capability. Let's say you had some data corruption or somebody made some changes and you need to go back and figure out what the database looked like at a certain time in order to do some debugging. And so that's what we're going to do now. We're just going to say we're going to go back to this certain date and time, and we're not going to deploy it on top of the existing instance where the live one is running. We're going to deploy that copy onto this new instance called Arizona that we just made. And I'm going to rename this so it's a little bit easier to remember. And we're not going to change the username. It's using Windows authentication, and it's using this Active Directory account called DBA. That's going to be fine. I don't need backups cluttering up my S3 bucket for this one, so I'm just going to turn them off for this particular database. I think I'll just be deleting it after a day or two anyway. And then finally, we'll just do a quick review of all that and say restore. So now we have a third SQL Server database running in this environment. As you can see, it's on a different SQL Server. It's good to go. So what I'm going to do now is jump over to a Windows desktop where I am logged in as this DBA Active Directory user. I've pulled up SQL Server Management Studio in advance, and I've already entered the name, the FQDN of that database that we just created, and it already has an entry in DNS thanks to DSM setting that up for us. And I just enter the name of the new database that's running on top of that instance. And of course, we have the encryption and trust the server certificate, all that set up. We just hit connect. And we'd load it up just like any other SQL Server database that you may be familiar with. And you can see it is a point-in-time copy, so it already has a table in there called cities. It's a table full of cities from all over the world. And we're going to go and I'll just show you that there's data in here. From this point, as a developer or database administrator, I can go in and do some queries and figure out what the state is of some certain elements that we think are maybe causing problems, and we need to go back and investigate by doing that point-in-time recovery.
What you just saw was a point-in-time recovery of a SQL Server database onto a fully isolated instance. The production cluster was not disturbed. DSM provisioned the target instance, joined it to Active Directory, registered the DNS record automatically, and restored the database to the exact timestamp specified. The DBA connected with Windows authentication, no passwords to manage. That's SQL Server Lifecycle Management on VCF, automated, governed, and production-ready in DSM 9.1.